All right, welcome everyone to another episode of We Are the Game. I'm Michael, and that's Luke, and we are going to be talking about a division rivalry game between the Arizona Cardinals and the Los Angeles Rams. Cardinals have a well-storied history this season of one-score games going back and forth, and the Rams are coming off a loss to the Carolina Panthers, where they broke their current trend of how they've been playing games and how they've been winning games. And I guess we're going to talk about whether that's going to become more of a trend or whether this division rivalry game is going to be a better game than I think on paper it would appear if you're just looking at win-loss record. So let's jump in and have some conversation about that. When we take a look at this game, again, you've got a 9-3 team versus a 3-9 team. Typically you'd look at that and just go, oh, well, this shouldn't be much of a game at all. But this division plays itself pretty rough. They are not nice to each other. And I think that, this time of the season, there's a number of, nobody's healthy. Everybody's dinged up somewhere. What is their kind of general take on what we should expect kind of in terms of this game? Do you expect this to be like a engaged game between these two teams? What's the history here?
Well, the long history, is that they used to really just clobber us. We did not play well against Sean McVay for a long period of time, like 6-7 years in a row or something like that. But last year, we somewhat broke that trend. First game last year, we actually beat them. They were pretty beat up on injuries. They had like a disproportionate amount early on in the season, and we were able to just clobber them. The last game against them last season was a weird, I think it was 9-13 was the ending score, and neither team's offense could really punch it in. So it is one of those where it seems like we've turned a corner, or at least did for 1 year. There's evidence to suggest maybe we have, against them schematically. That does not mean we're as good a team as they are, obviously, but it means that they may not be a kryptonite towards us that they had been for years. Now it seems like that. Seattle again, hooray. So that's one reason for maybe some optimism coming in here, is at least, if nothing else, they don't seem like they are just a schematic nightmare for us. So that's one thing I'm hoping for in this one, is that we can just make it competitive, because it looks like they're a great team and we're not a great team. And the last two division matchups we've had have been blowouts. So the first two we had, Seattle and the San Francisco 49ers, those were close games. We still lost them, but they were close games. But then the last two, it's like they figured us out. So I'm hoping we get the closer version of things. Maybe we can even sneak out with a win, because this just losing week after week is getting pretty old.
Yeah, no, I definitely get that. Well, and it is kind of interesting that they're coming off the loss to Carolina. That's one of your wins this season, I guess, against Carolina. I don't know that that's necessarily a telling sign, but an interesting one nonetheless. All right, well, let's talk a little bit about what do you expect to be kind of the Cardinals' approach offensively to playing against the Rams. Their defense has looked really good. I think they have the lowest points given up in your division, which is a really good division. What do you think the Cardinals' approach will be to that after watching what Carolina did and was successful? What do you think Carolina did, and then what do you think the Arizona Cardinals will do, I guess?
Well, Carolina played their game and it worked. So sometimes they play their game and it just doesn't quite work, but they're at their best when they're their offense is different than ours, but ultimately they like to be balanced. Every team would really like to be balanced, of course, but they were able to get both running backs going, and their pass game looked solid. They were able to get clutch plays from their better players. Tyrell McMillan had played well. So they got all of that. And of course, both Chuba Hubbard and then Rico Dowdle both played well. So that's something that I'm sure the Cardinals would love to do, because they'd love to do that every week. My reason for doubt is we haven't been able to do that. So we have had a couple of players who will show up every week, but most of the time it's in the pass game. So Michael Wilson there for a couple of weeks with Marvin Harrison Jr., when he was down, he had a couple of huge games. I think they said he had 300 yards in 2 games, which is ridiculous for a guy that a lot of people have probably never even heard of. So with Marvin out again this week, I would expect a heavy dose of Michael Wilson targets, if not actual success, then at least targets. Trey McBride will, of course, be another big part of it, because he always is and should be. But they'll try to get the run game going. And if we're going to be successful in this game, especially if it's going to be a game where both teams score more than 20 points, you're going to have some success in the run game. Otherwise, you're just inviting too many opportunity for turnovers, for interceptions and such. And that's going to turn the game lopsided too fast. And so I think they're going to have to get the run game going, which they have not been able to do very often. As much as there have been flashes of success from guys like Michael Carter and Bam Knight, it has not been something they've been able to sustain for a game. And so, yeah, that's going to be huge here. So we'll see if we can do that. We can learn from some film study from the Rams Panthers game you were talking about. So hopefully they can do that. But it's a big apple you're trying to pull off the hope tree there. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes.
So your expectation would be mostly a heavy dose of Trey McBride and Michael Wilson and whoever. It seems like a constant opportunity for one of the other wide receivers to kind of step up and create their own opportunity during these moments. So I don't know. I still kind of hope for that. I with Dallas, we've been talking about Ryan Flournoy, kind of making the most of his opportunities. But I'm kind of still hoping that there's a guy who separates himself away from that group during these kind of games. So, okay. So that talks about on offense. Let's talk about the Rams on offense, and then subsequently how you expect the offense on the Rams to attack the Cardinals. And what do you think the Cardinals will either do, or who's going to make the impact on the defensive side of the ball to kind of counter that or make an impact on it?
Well, we'll see schematically what we can do. The big one is Puka Nacua. Like, that's not exactly a big surprise or secret. It's like, hey, guess what? The Vikings really like Justin Jefferson, and the Bengals really like Jamar Chase. Well, the Rams really like Puka Nacua, and they feature him heavily. Matt Stafford has a long, storied history of really favoring one target and just throwing the ball at them like crazy. So, and he's the best at it that maybe I've ever seen. So I would expect that trend to continue. The last game against them last season, the game that ended 9-13, Matt Stafford had 189 passing yards, and 129 of them were Puka Nacua. Like, he is perfectly happy if that is the only offense he has is this one player. Like, that's fine. Just give me Puka, and I'm good to go. So he's certainly capable of using other players. I'm not trying to suggest he can't, but he is perfectly fine as long as he's got one guy. And Sean McVay knows how to get that one guy open. It's like, hey, we know they've got one guy, but he'll still just cut you to pieces. And so I would expect that to continue as far as moving the ball down the field goes. The big one is, can we keep them out of the end zone? We don't want Kyron Williams to get going. Devontae Adams is a big one because he hasn't been practicing this week, and he has been a big red zone target for them. So that might help us. I'm not rooting for injuries, but I will enjoy their absence. So we'll see, guys. I can't even remember suddenly if their tight end is Higbee or what, but like, they always have a tight end that's a solid red zone target as well. So that's going to be the big thing. If you've got Puka Nacua, he's going to be a good start again this week in fantasy because he's going to get tons of yards, probably 10 or 12 catches. And he's just going to really cut us apart from the 20 to the 20, so to speak. But it's once they're in that red zone, can we keep them down to just field goals? And I think there's some optimism there. We've got Will Johnson again, I think, this week, or at least that's the expectation. And our defense is healthier than it's been for a lot of the season, which is all well and good. It hasn't saved us. We haven't been winning games, but it is better than not, obviously. It would be great to get Mac Wilson back. But outside of that, we're relatively healthy on defense, I feel like, right now. And that might give us a shot in this game if we can keep them to field goals instead of touchdowns.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Going back to your point about Puka and how effectively they use him to move down the field. But at the end of the day, he has 4 touchdown catches on the year, and Devontae Adams has 14 of the 32. That's the that's the big one in the red zone. And I felt like, in particular, the first half of the season, your red zone defense was what was so good. You gave up yards between, but in the red zone, y'all would kind of lock down. I'll be interested to see if y'all can't hold on to that, captures on that here against Devontae Adams, especially if he's not 100% or if he even plays. but yeah, like you said, it's like you're gonna give up open field yardage to Puka Nakua somewhere at some point. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Um, is there anybody returning? Is there any hope of Trey Benson making an appearance or any of that? Um,
No.
no. I couldn't
No.
remember. Yeah, I keep hoping because I look forward to seeing him back. He started to feel like he was getting his feet under him, like really showing what he could do for a minute there.
Yeah, I really like the Trey Benson skill set that I've seen so far. Like he's got toughness as far as like how
Yeah,
he runs. He's got speed. He
yeah,
doesn't make really stupid mistakes. It doesn't seem like that, at least that I saw. The problem with Trey Benson is he can't seem to stay healthy, even in very limited
true.
time. He's only played like 2 games this season, and he didn't play much last year. But then when James Conner went down last year, and Trey had a chance at the end of the season to really like, hey, this is my chance to show what I've got for next year. He's like, I got hurt. He was like, how did you get hurt? You didn't even play.
Yeah,
And so that seems to be
yeah,
his big bugaboo right now is like the dude can't stay healthy. And that is a curse I don't know how to fix. So hopefully that's a year 1 and year 2 fluke and he'll be healthy for the rest of his career. And it'll be a
yeah.
long, illustrious career. But at this time, I have no
Until
reason
then,
to believe that he's not a little bit busted. So, but we'll see. Other than that, again, we're not expecting Marvin Harrison to play. They ruled Kyler Murray out. For anyone who was curious, at the pardon me, dying over here. They're going to rule me out now. But they ruled Kyler Murray out at the beginning of the week. They immediately on Monday were like, "Yeah, it's not going to happen." The massively believed sentiment or whatever at this point, the primary belief is that Kyler will not play again in a Cardinals jersey. So you're probably going to hear from here on out, just like, oh, he's not quite ready. Oh, he's not quite ready, just week after week. So that's kind of the belief at this point. So we'll see. But yeah, no, there's not a big return, but I am happy at least with the defense being mostly healthy again. So that's something.
yeah. No, that makes sense. So last thing, real quick before we go, what's your prediction? What's your call? What do you think this is going to functionally look like score wise? What are you kind of thinking and picking here?
The two most likely options are still both the Rams winning. I see no reason to assume that we're going to figure out how to win close games. We have not shown that all year. There is just that whole we know how to compete, but we don't know how to win games. And there's no evidence to suggest that we've jumped over that hurdle. So I see us losing a close game. You could maybe even copy and paste the score from last week. Being 20-17, being what the end of the Bucs game was. So that's kind of what I see. There is a possibility that they just destroy us. Matt Stafford made some mistakes last week, and if we can get him to make some more mistakes, we can make this a closer game or maybe get an upset here. But again, the trend has been very well established. We're going to make this competitive and come up just short. So I guess that's what I'd pick. So if you wanted a number, I'd say 20-17 again, but hey, hopefully I'll be surprised. I wouldn't mind getting another win this season.
Yeah, no, well, especially against this opponent.
Right.
So no, that makes perfect sense. What's that?
One division win. That's all I ask.
Yeah, I like it. Well, let's wait and see. We'll find out before long here. Looking forward to seeing how they play in that game. It'd be nice to see an upset in that division in particular because something needs to break up those three teams
Yep.
a little bit further apart. We'll see coming up this weekend what that looks like. But until then, thanks everybody for joining. We're on our way to 200 subscribers, so please drop us a like or subscribe if you wouldn't mind, and we will catch up with you again next time. Outside of that, have a wonderful day.